3.
Okay. There's note card number 1. And note card number 2. After 5 years of trying to conceive on our own, I was sitting in my doctor's office, sobbing uncontrollably. He had just scheduled me for emergency surgery to remove half of my reproductive organs. I was diagnosed at that point with stage 4 endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome. I was told at that time that my chances of getting pregnant naturally were slim to none, and they were less than 1%. I was devastated. All I've ever wanted in this life was to be able to be a mother, and all of my hopes were dashed in a matter of about 3 minutes. There are fertility treatments, my doctor was telling me, but I knew that there was no way that my husband and I would be able to afford them. I was heartbroken, but I was not alone. I had just been forced into an elite club of other infertile Americans. Infertility affects about 1 in 10 couples worldwide and about 6.1 million American women. There are a lot of women who deal with this. However, there are procedures that do help. There is assisted reproductive technology, which are procedures that allow for a pregnancy to be achieved through external means. I was somewhat familiar with these procedures because my sister had fertility issues. However, I wasn't quite sure I wanted to deal with them myself. There are many ART or assisted reproductive technology procedures that a couple can choose for treatment. I will focus primarily on in vitro fertilization, as that is the treatment that I underwent. IVF is when the eggs of a woman are harvested or taken from her body. They are then fertilized in a petri dish, and then after they go through a process of grading them and making sure that they are of good quality, then there is an embryo transfer in which the embryo is then transferred back into the woman's uterus and hopefully results in a pregnancy. In our case, we had 36 eggs. 23 of those were fertilized. 8 of those turned into viable, wonderful, top-of-the-line, grade A embryos. I underwent an embryo transfer and have been through the whole process. However, IVF is a costly, invasive, painful, emotionally exhaustive procedure. It is one that I would not wish on my worst enemy. IVF caused me to deal with months of shots, examinations, and an additional surgery in order to have my embryo transfer in 2016. But more than all of this was the grief that I experienced due to the loss of my fertility. That was agony and awful. But having a child is an invaluable experience, and it is one that I wanted more than anything in this life. It is worth all the physical pain and all the mental anguish. I was able to carry our daughter to full term, and she was born 2 years ago today. She is our miracle baby and is a perfect 2-year-old girl. But how much is all of this worth? How much is a child worth to a parent? In my mind and in my husband's mind, it's everything. Our child is worth everything. And although that being said, there's the business end of it, the infertility costs. These are astronomical, and they're not practical for the average American couple. Infertility treatments that I went through and I received totaled of upwards of about $35,000, and that does not include the medications that I had to utilize, nor does it include the annual embryo storage fee that we pay, which is about $500 every year. Under the health insurance coverage that we had at the time, the only procedure that was covered were the blood tests that I had. Most insurance companies do not cover assisted reproductive technologies. They do not cover infertility medications, treatments, or procedures. Some providers do advocate for their patients. They do try to kind of go to bat for them with the insurance companies. However, most don't even try. because insurance companies typically say no. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures, there are only 15 states that require insurance companies to either cover or offer coverage for diagnosis of or treatment of infertility issues. But that's limited coverage, and it's only available in certain states of the country. Many couples, such as my husband and I, have gone into great amounts of debt in order to have a child. But not everyone is able to do this. In fact, many are not. Infertility is no respecter of persons. It can affect individuals of any race, any nationality, and any economic background. Recently, there have been many celebrities who have come forward and talked about their own infertility issues. They've brought this topic kind of out of the darkness and brought it some light. Tyra Banks has come forward, Chrissy Teigen. Those are just a couple of women who have discussed it. But infertility touches many lives, and everyone deserves the right to treatment through health insurance and through health coverage. Aside from handing out free treatments or stacks of money to the infertile couples, the only thing that Americans can do in order to change this system is to contact their congressman. The Access to Infertility Treatment and Care Act, or S2960, is a bill that was introduced to Congress stating that insurance companies would be required to include infertility treatments in their coverage. I would urge you, please contact your congressman. Let your voice be heard about this. There is opposition to this bill. Of course there is. The opposition states that this would increase insurance premiums instead of keeping them at the low that they are. They're not low. But if you think about it, there are many people who undergo fertility treatments who deal with multiple births because they are more common when treatments are made available. And this also increases the level of care that the mother and infant will need as they have increased health risks as they are involved with multiple births. Author Robert Klitzman, in his article, How Much is a Child Worth? Providers and Patients' Views and Responses Concerning Ethical and Policy Changes in Paying for Assisted Reproductive Technology, discusses how the increase of multiples and the risks and problems that are associated with those cases can be a cause of increased insurance premiums. However, if we look at the effects and the implications that it would bring, we could hopefully deter some of those multiple births as it becomes more common. Increasing awareness for infertility by joining with the National Infertility Association and Resolve.org for Advocacy Day in 2019 is another way that you can get involved. This year, in May of 2019, May 15th and 16th, there will be Advocacy Day. This is an event in which members of Congress sit down and discuss infertility with this association called Resolve in order to increase the awareness and to find some solutions for the costly reproductive treatments that are out there. Infertility is overwhelming. It's unfair. But with financial assistance from insurance coverage, there could be a reduction in stress for those of us that have to deal with it. Although not everyone deals with infertility and not everyone is affected with this horrible thing, everyone knows someone who is. It is more common than you think. Could you look at your coworker, your friend, or even your sister, look them in the eye and tell them that this battle is not worth fighting? Contact your local congressman. Help out those who are suffering in silence. Infertility is a tricky game. It's one that no one wants to play. However, if we make coverage more available to those who need it, we can help to change the world. Thank you.